Hey, what up, though? We're about to get started, but we're about to wait for people to trickle in a little bit. As y'all come in, drop your name in the chats, whatever. Say what up, though. Greet your neighbor. It's gonna run about an hour, so settle on in. Tonight's topic is gonna be a very big one. Yeah. Welcome. This is your host, Noble Noon Khatum Shevik L. Tonight's topic: toxic masculinity. What is it? Where does it come from? And how do we fix it? And as the people show up, just give me a minute and we're gonna get started. All right. We're live. Thanks for being here. Seriously. Thanks for being here. Tonight's topic is toxic masculinity. And I know. Some of you, that phrase alone made you want to close the tab. Go somewhere else. We start talking about these subjects like toxic masculinity. For others, it's only language. It's the only language you got for something you actually live through. So before anything else, I want to set the table properly because this conversation gets ruined more often than almost any other topic I could think of. Here's my promise for tonight. I am not here to tell you that masculinity is the problem. I am not here to tell you that being strong, being stoic, being competitive, wanting to provide and protect, none of that is toxic. A lot of that is genuinely good, very good masculinity. Some of the best men I know embody all of those traits, embody all of those things. What we're actually going to dig into tonight is a specific set of rules, unwritten rules, ones that kind of nobody actually writes down, but everybody somehow learns about how a man is allowed to act, feel, and he's never ever allowed to admit. And what happened when those rules quietly run someone's entire life? When you hear toxic masculinity, what's your gut reaction? One word, one phrase, whatever. I'll read a few of these as we go, but let's get back into the subject matter. Oh shoot, I'm missing my script. So the rules. Nobody hands you a manual that says, here's how to be a man. This stuff get absorbed from your dad, from coaches, from the guys you grew up around, from movies, from what happened or doesn't happen when you cry in front of the other boys or whatever. I want to walk you through five of these. As I go, I want you to actually be thinking about your own life, not just nodding along, agreeing with everything I'm saying. How many of these did you actually learn? How many have you taught to a kid or to a younger guy or even to your child or even just by an example? Now, here are some of the rules that that they tell us. You know what I'm saying? Rule number one: don't show weakness. I know we all heard of that one. We're not supposed to show weakness. We're not supposed to, you know, hurt. You know what I'm saying? This starts young, like really young. A kid falls off his bike, scrapes his knee, starts crying. And then a lot of households will respond in some version of, hey, hey. You're fine, toughen up, kid. Don't cry. You'll be all right. Everybody fall off their bike sometime. Now, most of the time, that comes from a loving place. Parents just want their kids to be resilient. Parents just want their kids to handle hard things. I get it. But here's what the kid actually hears. My pain is inconvenient. Feeling things is something to be embarrassed about. And that lesson doesn't stay still, it compounds. By the time that kid is a teenager, he learns not to talk about being scared, not to admit he's sad, definitely never to say I'm struggling. Because every time in the past he tried that, tried to do something like that, what came back was some flavor of man up, be a man, toughen up. So what does he do instead? He performs. He projects confidence. He absolutely does not feel on the inside. He swallows it. Meaning, he do all those things without feeling himself. He do all those things without tuning into himself. He just like a robot. He's there to do because this is what a man is supposed to. Real quick, anyone in the chat have a moment like that? Well, you got the "don't cry, toughen up" message, or can you still remember it? Drop it if you're comfortable. No pressure. You don't have to if you don't want to. But I'm seeing a lot of that lately. Yup, right here. That was me. And here's the one thing about it. All that swallowed pain. It doesn't disappear. It transforms. It comes out sideways as anger, as addiction, as numbness, or it just turns inward. Depression, isolation, and at the extreme end, it would be suicide. And the stat here is brutal, y'all. Men die by suicide at close to 4 times the rate of women. Not because men suffer more than women do, because men are dramatically less equipped to process suffering without it becoming lethal. They were taught early and repeatedly that talk about it was never on the table. We was never supposed to talk about how we felt. You know what I'm saying? We were supposed to suck it up. Now this is rule number 2. Now we went over rule number 1. Rule number 1 was don't show any weakness. Rule number 2, man, I hate these notes. Don't get me hold on, I hate these notes. Rule number 2, almost there. Rule number 2, value. Man, I hate this. Always be in control. Rule number 2, always be in control of yourself, of your emotions, of your environment, other people sometimes. On its own, self-control is a good thing. I'm not knocking discipline, but it's the version of the rule isn't about mastering yourself. But this version of the rule isn't about mastering yourself. It's about never appearing lost, never appearing uncertain, never admitting you don't know something or that you need help or God forbid that you made a mistake. This is where you start to see real damage. Guys who internalize this rule will run themselves into the ground financially, professionally, physically, rather than say, I need help. They avoid doctors because walking into a doctor's office and saying something is wrong feels like admitting weakness. And the research backs this up. Men consistently wait longer than women to seek care for serious symptoms, sometimes until it's too late to be a minor problem anymore. It shows up in relationships too. A guy who can't say I was wrong, who can't say I don't know, who has to be the authority in every single conversation, that's not strength. That's performance of strength with someone terrified underneath it. And that performance makes real intimacy basically impossible. You can never be close to someone who can never be certain in front of you. Let me say that one more time. You can't be close to someone who can never be certain in front of you. Rule number 3, your worth is your productivity. Your worth is your productivity. Rule number 3, your worth is what you produce. This is an old one. Your worth is what you produce. This is a good one right here. We should be able to get through this in no time. This old one, like ancient. This is the old one, like ancient times. The guy who brings home the most meat has the most status. And look, there's nothing real underneath this. Having purpose, contributing to something that genuinely matters for anyone's well-being, men and women both. But toxic masculinity take that and turns it into something brutal. Your entire value as a human being is tied to your output and your paycheck, which means lose your job, and you don't just lose your income, you lose yourself. Hit a slow patch, you feel worthless. Retire after 40 years of work, and suddenly you don't know who you are. This is a huge part of why depression spikes so hard in men after job loss or after retirement. It's not really about the money, it's about an identity collapse. And this does something else. It turns other men into competitors instead of friends. Who's making more? Who got the bigger house? Who got promoted? And you cannot be genuinely close with someone you're constantly, even subconsciously, measuring yourself against. Rule number 4, dominate or be dominated. Rule number 4, and I'll move through this one a little bit faster because it's the heaviest power, because it's the heaviest. Power is the only currency that matters. The logic goes, the world's a hierarchy. The strong rise and the weak get stepped on. Showing softness is basically inviting someone to dominate you. So you dominate first before someone does it to you. At the extreme end, this is the logic underneath domestic violence, sexual assault, bullying, and war. Guys who have absorbed domination equals worth and who don't have any other route to feeling powerful sometimes acts that out on whoever is closest. But even in its but even in its everyday nonviolent form, this rule makes people defensive, hyper competitive, and unable to actually celebrate when someone else's does well. Which again, you can't be close to someone you're in competition with. Rule number 5, men police other men. And rule 5 is the one I think gets missed the most. And honestly, I think it's the most important one tonight. I see it all the time on YouTube, and I see it all the time, even with myself. And people can say that's kind of what he's doing now, but I'm not, because actually I'm policing myself. It is not primarily women enforcing these rules on men. It's other men through mockery, through the word soft, through the way an entire room of guys goes quiet and weird the second one of them admits he's been struggling with something. Has anyone seen that happen? A group of guys, someone shows a little vulnerability and the whole room just shuts it down, changes the subject, makes a joke. I bet a lot of you have seen this from both sides. And here's why I actually think that's hopeful. That's a hopeful fact. Even though it sounds bleak, if men are the ones enforcing this on each other, then men are the ones who can change it. One guy going first in the group can shift the whole room. We're going to come back to that later because I think it matters a lot. Okay, so what I'm about to do right now, I'm about to take a little quick 2, 3 minute break, stretch my feet a little bit, and I'll be right back. Yo, and I hope that I wasn't on mute because if I was, I'm going to be so embarrassed that a whole segment of this live I went unheard. But we about to get through it though. We're going to get through it. Either way, we're gonna get through it. All right, so like I said, I wish I had more of an audience because there's a lot of questions I would like to ask you guys. And when I'm done with this live, I will be having a community post asking about certain questions that I did post to the chat. You know what I'm saying? Y'all are welcome, very welcome to hit that like button, subscribe if you're not, and also, leave a comment. I always read my comments. I always react to my comments all the time. So don't think you won't be seen, you won't be heard, or your voice won't be read. All right, let me get back to it. Okay, quick history detour because I think this is actually really important and it gets skipped a lot. These rules are not just how men have always been. They're not biological destiny. They got built under specific historical conditions. And the thing about stuff that gets built, it can get rebuilt. Go back before the industrialization, and in most places, let's go back before industrialization. In most places, men and women work together, farming, trade, craft work, all happening in or near their home. The whole men go out into the world, women stay home thing. That's actually a pretty recent invention in the scope of human history. Industrialization splits that. Men get pulled into factories and cities, and a new divide gets drawn. The public world of work and commerce becomes coded masculine, and the private world of home and emotion becomes coded feminine. And think about what that factory job actually was for most guys: incredibly repetitive, very little autonomy, a foreman barking orders all day. Where do you find your dignity in a life like that? A lot of guys found it in contract. Well, at least I'm not a woman. At least I'm tough. At least I don't cry. The rigidity of that era of masculinity was partly a way of clawing back some sense of status when the actual job gave you none. Then you got the 20th century, two world wars, and decade of conflict after that. Stoicism, emotional shutdown, and ability to keep going without complaining. Those weren't just personality traits, they were survival skills in combat. Guys came home from those wars as heroes in the way they coped: silent, hard, never talking about what happened, becoming the model, the strong, silent type. And here's the part that really gets me: the trauma those men carried, completely untreated, got passed down. Nothing goes through anything anyone says out loud, just through what kids learn was normal. Growing up with a dad who gone emotionally numb just to survive. And then media, from old westerns through action movies, right up to today influencer culture, to the today's influence culture. And there's been this relentless commercial, not even necessarily conspiratorial, just commercial, selling of one specific image. The lone guy who solves everything with force. The guy whose authority never get questioned. The guy who never feels nothing. The kid without great role models around him. That screen becomes the teacher. What do you think? It's what happening online right now with algorithms and influencer content making this better or worse or just different. Curious about what y'all think about that. I think things I think both things are true and honest. There's content out there now that's more emotionally honest about men's experiences than most anything from 20 years ago. And there's also a whole ecosystem, the manosphere stuff, telling guys their loneliness is because they're not dominant enough. And the fix is more aggression, more money, more carrying less than what people think. Same hunger, different, very different direction. One more piece. There's an economic angle too. The old idea was be a provider, dominate a little when needed, and the world gives you back status, gives you status back. That deal used to actually work more or less for a lot of guys. That pathway is a lot less reliable now. Manufacturing jobs that used to anchor whole communities, a lot of those are gone. And here's the dangerous part: the economic deal changed, but the emotions didn't. But the emotional rules didn't. Guys are still taught their worth comes from providing and dominating in a world whose thing who where in a world where those things don't reliably deliver anymore. That's a recipe for identity crisis. I think that's a whole piece of why male loneliness has become a massive cultural conversation lately. Male loneliness. I don't think that's actually me myself. I wouldn't think that's actually a bad thing because that's another label that just because a man want to be alone is that he's lonely. You know what I'm saying? Some men like to be lonely. They like to be by themselves. They don't like to be around a lot of bullshit, especially when they get to a certain age. They'd rather sit with a dog than be around a whole bunch of people. All right, the real cost. All right, let's talk about who actually pays for all this. And I want to start with men themselves because in a lot of conversations about this topic, that part gets lost. Like acknowledging harm to men somehow takes away from acknowledging harm to others. It doesn't. It doesn't. Both things are true at once. Men die younger than women, pretty much everywhere on earth. 5 to 7 years younger on average in developed countries. Some of that's by biology, but a big chunk of it is behavior, more risk taking, way less health care, more dangerous jobs, and stress that gets bottled up instead of processed, which is genuinely hard on the body over time. That suicide stat I mentioned earlier, men are close at 80% of suicides in the US. And men also have a higher completion rates when they attempt, partly because of the method, but also because by the time a lot of men reach a crisis point, they are in so much shape psychologically, having avoided getting help the whole way there. And loneliness, there's a stat that gets me every single time I think about it. Researchers ask men, if you were going through something hard, who would you talk to? A huge number of men name their spouses or partners as their only answer. Not a friend, not a sibling, one person total. One person. Honestly, chat, those that watching, I'm curious and answer honestly. How many people do you have that you can call at 2 a.m. in the morning if something was really wrong? Drop a number in the comments or no judgment anyway. This often produces some quietly heavy numbers. Yeah, I see a lot of ones and twos in here, but I don't think that because people in this chat are bad in relationships. It's just because a lot of guys get taught directly or indirectly that real closeness with other men is suspicious or weak or get some kind of joke made about it. The policing of male friendship is, I think, one of the quietest and most damaging parts of all this. Now, the harder part, because this isn't self contained. When men get taught that dominance is their right, that doesn't stay inside of them, it comes out. The data on domestic violence, on sexual violence, the whole overwhelming pattern is men against women. I want to say this carefully because I know some of you watching this. This is the part where it starts to feel like an accusation aimed at you personally. That's not the intent. And honestly, I don't think blame is even useful here. What I think is usefully or useful, what I think is useful though, is understanding the mechanism because of because if domination equals worth and softness is dangerous, it's the operation system then harming toward other isn't some separate bad things some men do. It's actually downstream of the exact same rules we've been talking about all night, which means the same reversal that helps men personally is also the thing that reduces this kind of harm. That's not the side of benefit. It's the same fix. There's a broader pattern too. Societies where domination is the masculine ideal tend to drift towards authoritarian politics. Researchers have actually tracked this. And in workplaces, the whole brilliant jerk who treats people badly but gets a pass because he's good at his job thing. That's the same rule, just in a blazer. Some of this is men are bad. This is that a specific narrow, learnable, and unlearnable set of rules produces predictable downstream harm to men carrying it and to everyone around them. Quick breather. All right. We're about halfway through this. And was a very heavy first half, I know. Let's just take a check. Let's just take a sec to check. Let's take a sec to check. While I grab me some water, drop in the chat one of those five rules from earlier. Which one do you think is the most common one you see around? Not necessarily the worst, just the one you see most of the day. And I'll be back in two and two. Give me one sec. Yeah, don't forget, I'm gonna be doing these big panels as much as I can. I'm start doing like open panels on the weekends, and throughout the week I'll be uploading small little snippets of things like my book, things like that. I really want to bring a little bit more to the culture of YouTube instead of a whole bunch of arguing and yelling. I really want to bring ideas, situations, and also solutions to our problems. I know this ain't what a lot of people want to hear, and that's fine. You know what I'm saying? Like I said, I got to get this out the mud. You know what I'm saying? I got to get this out the mud. I got to do it on my lonely. And if I got to be in here with just me by myself, I'm gonna do what I gotta do. Because at the end of the day, this is not toxic masculinity here. This is a brother that's healing himself, working towards becoming the most non-toxic person you can know. That's why I laugh a lot. That's why I stay happy. That's why I be chilling, and that's why I stay out the way. Because my own peace of mind is what's important to me. You know, a lot of times us as men, like I say, a lot of us as men, we give so much of ourselves to the point that we have nothing left for ourselves. We think that us going to work, you know what I'm saying, is giving that time for ourselves so we can have some money. You know what I'm saying? But we could put that same energy into just learning how to, form your own business, do your own thing, but still, you will still, with these toxic traits of masculinity, work yourself to death trying to build your business. Don't tell me my dang on phone went out. Oh boy, I tell you, I can't win. I cannot win today, but we gonna get through this. hmm But yeah, man, I tried to write down a lot of things that I wanted to talk about because I didn't want to freestyle this subject. I really wanted to give this subject the time that it needed and the thought that it needed so it can be well heard and received. Now, I may have stumbled over a few words or some things out of place, but it still stands. You know what I'm saying? That us men got problems, and that problem begins with the way that we view being a man. My most liberating moment was when I said, you know what? Fuck what society say what I am as a man. Do I feel comfortable as a man? How do I feel as a man? Am I being healed? Have I been healed? Have I done the work to heal myself? And that's what's going to be in the last section. You know what I'm saying? I saved that last for a reason. Because if you got through this whole video up until now, I congratulate you because I I can't even see how I got this far. For real, I was ready to shut this motherfucker down a couple times. Like, no, ain't nobody coming, ain't nobody in here. I don't care. No, it's all right. It's okay because this is part of my therapy. This is part of me doing this work that I gotta do to master myself as a man. As I'm up here waiting on this damn phone to load up so I can finish this, they want to act crazy. Things happen like that. This would be a time when I would get mad and probably throw my phone. But it's like, hey, you're challenging yourself. This is something you don't do every day. This ain't quote unquote your lane of communication with people. And that's what I'm working on. That's why I said, yo, I'll be a part of this friend of me sector. You know what I'm saying? I'll walk this shit down. I'll start brand new. I'll start off fresh. You know what I'm saying? I start off from the mud, start from my phone and build up till I got a whole YouTube studio monetized and got a couple plaques in my room. You know what I'm saying? In my studio. I'm about to take this all the way. I don't know. I don't do shit half-ass. You know what I'm saying? If I'm gonna do something, I'm gonna do it to the best of my ability, and I'm not gonna have stuff. So I decided to take this content creation serious. Every night ain't gonna be a stellar show. I know that all the time. You know what I'm saying? That's in my head. I know I ain't gonna have a good show every day. Just like today, this to me, from my standpoint, this is going terrible. But I'm gonna get through it, and I'm gonna set up for the next live tomorrow. But I believe I did what I said I did want to do. And if I did that, I got to keep that in check. All right. We about to get back to it. Hold on 1 second. But thing is, I want to say this too while I'm waiting on this to load up. And it's not out of no type of animosity or even being competitive. You know what I'm saying? It had nothing to do with that. I support everybody I support. You know what I'm saying? And it pisses me off, you know what I'm saying, when I support and I be in everybody chat and I get on everybody panel who I fuck with. And they don't even come in here and type in my chat and get the fuck on. I'm not asking nobody to stay here. You know what I'm saying? What I'm asking is damn, come at least hit the like button like I do. You know what I'm saying? At least, type in the chat, what up though, like I do. And do that work on me as a man? Yeah, yeah, it do. Because me trying to be the exception of all these other guys, all these other male content creators out here that's in our sector, in these sectors, in these spaces that I be in. At least I'm trying to be the exception and like actually bring people, what I'm saying, together on some shit. But that's neither here nor there. But now we about to get into the solutions. We about to get into the work part of it because I've been talking a lot. Sometimes I think I talk too motherfucking much. But let me get into the inner work. And this is the reversal, right? I want to be honest with you about something. I don't think this is mainly a policy problem or even mainly a we just need better conversations problem. Even though, hey, we're having one of those right now. So that's not nothing. I think it's root at the root of it. This is a spiritual problem, a crisis of identity, a crisis of, and this is a word that is going to sound old fashioned, but stick with me, a crisis of initiation. Let me step away from my notes for a minute. We do not have rites of passages, real rites of passage, not this little stuff they be taking these little boys through that don't teach them nothing. Real rites of passage. My rites of passage, I went to a camp and we had a rites of passage ceremony. Well, we had to go out into the woods and walk in the woods at the darkness of night. And that stuck with me all, you know what I'm saying? That when we came out of that wood, out of the woods, our camp instructor was like, y'all are men now. Y'all are Hufakaka. Some of Indian shit he had said. Y'all are young braves now. We was geek. We was punk. You know what I'm saying? It did something to us. It gave us confidence that somebody didn't have to tell us. You know what I'm saying? You're a man. You got to do this to be confident. No, it wasn't that. The confidence came from completing the task and being celebrated after you go through something. You know what I'm saying? I don't think a lot of children get celebrated. Nah, they get celebrated for graduating school, going to the prom, going to the army, navy, air force, marines. But do they get celebrated when they reach them milestones in life as young men, or do they have to be told that this is what you have to do to be considered a man? And so when we don't reach those marks, when we don't reach those points, guess what happens? We feel bad about ourselves. Everybody become the enemy. We don't want to be bothered with nobody. And then they make us work ourselves to death to reach those expectations that's not ours. Let me get to this so I can get up out of here. And the reversal isn't primarily change your behavior. It's the deep. Hey, Nikki C, how you doing? Let me get through this part, then I'm gonna drop the link. And the reversal isn't primarily change your behavior. It's the deep, genuine, uncomfortable work of becoming who you actually are underneath the performance, not the version you learn to project, the real one. Here's where I want to start. Every guy carrying around this stuff we've talked about all night, he's carrying a wound. Maybe a dad who was cold or just gone, a humiliation that never got solved, a loss nobody let him grieve, or just a more sensitive, tender version of himself that he had to bury somewhere around at age 7 or 8 because the world was made has made it really clear that that version was not welcome. Carl Jung had a name for this. It's called the shadow. The parts of yourself you push down because at some point they felt dangerous to show. For guys raised under these rules, the shadow is enormous. Grief, fear, need, tenderness, whole continents of human of whole continents of being human just locked in the basement. And here's the thing about what gets locked in the basement. It doesn't go away. It runs the house from down there. The guy who never let himself cry his grief becomes the guy who rages over nothing. The guy who never admitted he's scared becomes the guy who needs to control everything around him. The guy who never let himself feel tender. The guy who never let himself feel tender becomes the guy who literally cannot register when someone else is hurting. The reversal doesn't start with act differently. It starts with going down, finding out what's actually in that basement. This is where it gets really interesting to me. Pretty much every traditional culture you can look at across continents, across thousands of years, had some version of initiation or rite with young men. Not just a ceremony, structured, a process structured. A boy get taken away, sometimes literally into the wilderness. He's facing something hard, darkness, fear, isolation, basically the death of being a boy. And they ain't guided by older men who through it themselves, who've been through it themselves. He comes back something new. He gets a place in the community. He's told you faced it. You're not a boy anymore. You're connected to everyone who came before you. That's what it is. That's what a rites of passage is. That's what a rites of passage is supposed to be, especially for young men. Especially for young men. They need to go through that darkness. They need to go through them shadows now. They need to go into the basement now. They don't need to be raised up to 100 and ain't even went through 10 yet. You putting too much on him already, telling him he's not supposed to cry. So what he supposed to do with them tears? Bottle them up and become a hurt little boy when he become a grown ass man. Robert Bly wrote a book called Iron John. He made this argument decades ago. Modern Western men are basically living in a vacuum where that used to be. The rights are gone. A lot of the elders are gone too, or just as lost as everyone else. So guys become men in body without ever become men in soul. Let me say that again. So guys become men in body without ever becoming men in soul. And that hunger for transformation doesn't go away just because the container for it disappeared. It goes looking elsewhere. Gangs, extreme risk taking, addiction, anywhere that feels like an ordeal because something in us still knows we're supposed to go through one. Curious. This is the chat check. What y'all all think? Do y'all see anything filling that gap right now? Could be good, could be bad. Gym culture, online communities, military, religion, whatever comes to mind. There's often a good range here, and from the gym saved my life to that's literally how guys end up radicalized online, or both are worth acknowledging. Yeah, and honestly, both those things could be true about the same exact space. A gym, a Discord server, a church group. These can be genuine containers for real transformation. Or they can just be somewhere else. They can just be somewhere else where someone learns a new, slightly different performance. The form isn't really what matters. What matters is whether it's actually taking someone down into the real stuff or just giving them a new costume. When I say down, when I say taking you down, that means going into the shadow, going down into the abyss of yourself. You have to face that shit. Us as men gotta face that shit. That's what we get in this term toxic masculinity. When a lot of these people don't even understand. Well, I could say people, I wouldn't even say women, I say men too, don't even understand masculinity. They just label that as man, male, not the polar opposite of feminine energy. I think I'll be going over people's head if I go into that because this is the place for that aspect of it because we gotta use breadcrumbs right now, and these are the breadcrumbs, little things, little rules that controls who we are and who we identify ourselves are as far as men in our masculinity, and that's what society has done. And now you got a whole population of broken men with little boys in them that don't know which way to go. Let me drop this link because I think I'm about to drop this link. Because maybe somebody want to come up and talk about it. I don't know because, but so practically, if someone's watching tonight, is thinking, okay, some of this is hitting a little close. Where do I actually start? Here's where I'll point you to. First, silence, actual, intentional time with no input, no phone, no music, no podcast, just you. I know how that sounds. It sounds like nothing. It's it is for a lot of people. It's the hardest thing you could do because the second the noise stops, everything you've been outrunning catches up. The restlessness you feel in that silence isn't a malfunction. It's information. It's pointing directly to whatever needs attention. Second, shadow work, which is just a name for the disciplined process of finding the stuff you rejected about yourself and bringing it back into the light. Therapy, especially the kind that goes deeper than here's a coping skill, more depth oriented stuff, journaling, paying attention to your dreams. The question underneath all of it is, what do I refuse to be? Because whatever you never ever let yourself be, that's exactly what got exiled. And keep it. and it'll keep running things from the background until you let it back in. And to be clear, the goal isn't to become unrestrained in those qualities. It's not now go be needy all the time. If neediness was your shadow, it's having access to a full range of being human instead of being secretly controlled by the parts of you that you locked away. Third, and this one I think is the most underrated of all, grief. I'm gonna tell a story before I get into this. My dad died. I didn't cry. I didn't grieve. My brother died. I didn't have time to grieve. When my mama died, I didn't have time to grieve. I had to come from out of town all the way to Detroit, driving from Georgia to Detroit. I had time to grieve. My grandmother died when she just passed. I didn't have time to grieve. So I think this part right here is what really resonated with me. Most men I know, including myself, honestly, are walking around with years of stuff that never got mourned. A relationship with a parent that never got resolved before it was too late. A version of yourself, a dream, a path, something that quietly died and never got a funeral. Stuff that just got handled instead of felt. An ungrieved loss doesn't just sit there neutrally, it calcifies. It becomes the hardness, the thing we call being strong. But it actually just but it is actually just frozen pain. Letting yourself actually feel lost fully, that's not weakness. In a lot of traditions, a man's capacity to grieve is treated as a measure of his depth. Only someone who actually loves something can grieve. There's one more shift I want to talk about because I think it is the one that ties everything together. Toxic masculinity defines a man competitively. Your identity is built on what you're above, what you dominate, who you beat. Pretty much every serious wisdom tradition you can find offers a complete different frame. A man isn't defined by what he dominates. He's defined by what he serves. In ancient Egypt thought, the idea wasn't in ancient Egyptian thought, the idea wasn't the conqueror, it was the guardian. Power was only legitimate if it protected something larger, truth, balance, the community. In Hermetic thought, the masculine principle isn't force for its own sake, it's purposeful, directed in intelligence, aimed at something beyond yourself. That shift from that shift from what I can dominate to what am I actually here to serve is I think one of the most powerful changes a person can go through. And here's the paradox. Guys who make that shift doesn't end up feeling less powerful. They feel more powerful because their sense of worth stop depending on winning or on competition, on other people's approval. It becomes internal. It becomes something nobody can take from them. Last piece of this section. None of this, none of it happens in isolation. None of it happens in isolation. Every one of those old initiation traditions was communal. Other men holding space for the guy going through it. We've mostly lost that container. Rebuilding it might look like an actual men's group, a small circle that meets regular, real honesty, real confidentiality. It might be a mentor, someone who's done their own work, who you can actually learn from. Or it might be becoming that person for someone younger. The cage that we spent this the cage that we spent this whole stream talking about, it got built by people over time, which means it can get taken apart by people too. Not through arguing about it online, through guys actually willing to go inward, to grieve what needs grieving, to find out who they are underneath everything they learned to perform. This is not an easy road, but in every tradition that ever taken this seriously, that's the real reason, the real version of being a man. Not the performance, but the thing underneath. And with that, this is the reframe. Okay, I want to land this somewhere, hopefully, because I know that got heavy and I don't want to leave it there. Here's the thing, the goal was never masculinity is bad, get rid of. The goal is expanding it. Strength, discipline, protectiveness, courage, follow through. None of that is the problem. The problem was that strength got squeezed down into this tiny definition that only had room for dominance and performance. What does the expanded version actually looks like? It looks like a guy who can comfort his kid and still be the person everyone counts on when things get hard. It's the guy who goes to therapy and still works out, still competes, still have drive. A guy who can say, I was wrong, and his whole world doesn't come falling apart. A guy who can cry at a funeral and still be steady one and still be the steady one in a crisis the next day. That guy isn't weak. He's actually stronger than the version toxic masculinity produces because his strength doesn't depend on never being tested. It comes from actually knowing himself, which means getting tested just makes him more solid, not less. I genuinely think most guys want that, even if they never had the words for it. Most guys are tired of the cage. They just don't know where's the door. And all right, we're almost about at that hour, so let's wrap this up. If anything tonight hit a little close to home, and based on chat, I think I did a lot of it for you. I just say stay with the feeling instead of brushing it past it. That discomfort, that recognition, that's not a bad sign. That's usually the first sign that something actually starting to shift. And if you're genuinely struggling right now, and just this was a powerful thought, this was a thoughtful video, struggling, but actually struggling, please talk to someone. If you really out here having problems, please go talk to someone, a friend, a therapist. In the US, just dial 988. That's the suicide crisis and lifeline. You can call or text. Reaching out is not a sign of weakness. If there's one thing I hope sticks from tonight, it's that asking for help is exactly the thing we've been talking about reclaiming. Thank you for your time tonight. And anybody want to come up and chat, there's the link. If not, I'm about to turn on this music and we about to ride out, right? Right. Let's get it. Like I said, it's not a bad thing. Like I said, I didn't come here with the toxic masculinity, like, masculinity was a bad thing. You know what I'm saying? Oh, thank you, Mia's Magic. No doubt. I didn't come up here just to, attack men. I want to help us men. I want men to be able to express themselves without being overly emotional. I want men to use more logic. I don't want men to think that they need all the money to be relevant. I don't want men to be working themselves to the point that they're robots. And that's the only thing they're waking up to do, waking up to go to work, to come home, to go to sleep, to wake up, to go to work, to come home, go to sleep, and never get a chance to enjoy themselves. Thank you, Mia. Thank you very much for showing up. I'm working at it. I'm working at it. I'm just trying to bring structure to my lives. You know what I'm saying? I just want my lives more structured. I don't want, what I'm saying, shit going all over the place. It might not be eloquently placed yet, you know what I'm saying? But yeah, I'm starting to write down everything and making sure the things that I write down is irrelevant to the title and trying to bring content. That's it. That's all. That's what they want, right? You know what I'm saying? So I hope everybody enjoys this little bit. Make sure y'all like, share, and subscribe. You know what I'm saying? This is just one video. There are going to be more. Some are going to be worse than others. Some going to be better than others. But one thing that I know is that I always enjoy spending time with y'all. Let me see. No doubt, I always enjoy spending time with y'all. And there's nothing else. I'm about to get up out of here. Y'all be easy. Peace, love, and light.